Okay, Murad, let's dive into the topic of immigration to Canada. Students are going to Canada, studying at the institution which they graduate and eligible to receive their PGWP, work for period of duration. Then they are going to apply for PR. Can you guide them on the basic information that they might want to know about applying for PR, preparing to apply for PR in Canada?
Yeah, so I mean, there are many ways for one to become PR. Today, let's go over the ones via the education stream, just because we're talking about international students in Canada. So each province has their own PNP programs, provincial nominee programs. But the most fundamental one is the express entry system, because it's a federal system. So express entry is basically where a pool of applicants waiting to be selected and receive ITA, the invitation to apply for PR. And Canadian government every now and then selects a number of people from the pool to apply for PR based on their points, which we call CRS scores. And there are multiple categories in place to be placed in this pool, such as the Canadian Experience Class, Federal Skilled Worker, or Federal Skilled Trades, FST, sorry. And international students generally are eligible under the Canadian Experience Class, where the requirement to enter the pool is to work at a qualifying job for a minimum of 1 year. And this job should be tier 0, 1, 2, 3, and not 4 and 5, not to be too technical, but just want to mention it because the system just changed from the NOC code system, where in the past, the job should have been under NOC 0AB and not C and D. So basically what this means is jobs that would require a college or university degree to apply. Those jobs would generally be qualified. So we discussed the minimum requirement to enter the pool. But to be selected, I mentioned the point system before. So every applicant has a CRS score, which consists of the applicant's education background, employment background, English and French language skills, and many other sections such as their age. So to give you a better idea of the point system, before COVID, we would consider above 470 as good, 470, because 474 is the score of a university graduate in Canada who is under the age of 29 with 1 year work experience and maximum level of English. So they don't speak French. And during COVID, the IRCC held a draw where the minimum point was 75, which meant that the majority of the pool being selected. And as the number of candidates were very limited after this event, they stopped the process for more than a year. And during this time, if a person's work permit was expiring, they mostly added at least like 18 months to their permit's expiry dates. And currently, as the IRCC still is not back to normal with these draws, the scores most recent, the most recent scores are around 490, 490. So how the system works is the process begins with us creating an online profile, which includes information about client skills, education, work experience, language proficiency, and other factors that determine their eligibility for the immigration. And once the profile is submitted, the candidate's eligibility is assessed based on the CRS, which assigns points for various factors such as age, education, all the things I mentioned about. Candidates are then ranked against other candidates in the pool based on their CRS scores, and the highest ranked candidates are invited to apply for PR through these regular draws from the pool. And these draws are known as rounds of invitations, and the candidates who receive an invitation to apply have limited amount of time, 60 days generally, to submit and complete the application for the PR. So if the candidate receives an ITA, they may also be eligible to apply for the Bridging Open Work Permit. The purpose of this is to allow the candidate to remain in Canada and work while their application for PR is being processed. But to be eligible for a Bridging Open Work Permit, the candidate must have a valid job offer from the Canadian employer and have submitted a complete application for PR already. So the Bridging Open Work Permit is not like automatically given. So candidates must apply for it separately after their PR application. And if the application is approved, the candidate will be issued an open work permit, which allows them to work for any employer in Canada while their application for PR is being processed. So basically like PGWP. And the length of the Bridging Open Work Permit depends on the validity of the candidate's passport, of course, and the length of time it takes for the application for PR to be processed. But there's an important tip, or students must really be cautious about this, and that is they need to complete their PR application, which means that they need to be invited to apply before their current work permit expires. Because if their work permit expires, sure, they can continue staying in Canada with a visitor record, but they cannot keep working. And until their bridging open work permit application is approved, then they cannot work, because again, maintained status is not in effect because they applied after the expiration date of their current work permit. Yeah.
Okay. So that very clear in terms of what they should do, how it works in terms of their systems, how they select people, how they choose people. So I know we talk about the federal programs. Can you touch on a bit on other possibility like PNP programs? If they are going to apply, before they apply, what other thing they should consider? Like, should they apply for federal? Should they apply for PNP? How they should do research on this?
Yeah, so generally, if the student is less than 29 years old, have already a university degree in their own country, or maybe have university degree in Canada, they have good level of English, maybe they have medium level of French speaking ability, that would be really good because that gives actually a lot of points. Or if they have like a 3-year work permit where they completed 2 years of work experience rather than 1, or if they have masters in their own country, for example. These are all additional points for the student, and they should be enough for the express entry, at least for today's point system.
Yeah.
Nobody can guess what's going to be 2 years after, if the points are going to decrease or increase, but the general trend is that points are increasing, meaning the candidates in the pool are getting more qualified than ever. So students should definitely start researching about this while they're studying, because this might affect their maybe they might decide to study one more additional year to study, because 1 year education experience generally gives you up to 1 year work permit. But if you study another 1 year, that 1 + 1 could also consider as 2 years of education. So now maybe you can apply for a 3-year work experience. And sure, it might take you 6 months for you to get your PGWP, but there's a difference between, while you're in the pool, you still have 2 years of work experience, work permit remaining, versus your work permit might be expiring next month. That is a very stressful position to be in. So students should definitely research about express entry and also the PNPs, basically which province they are living in and which province their school is in. So for example, Vancouver might have some tech PNP where if you graduate from this special program, then maybe you won't need the work experience, or each province has many different PNPs. So this should be researched for each individual student.
So since maybe they start their courses, maybe they should already start to look at what are the current programs, where is it heading, how is the minimum score now, and then they keep those into consideration, and then when they're about to apply, they can do it themselves, or they can also consult and work with RCIC like you, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe for the first couple months they can get used to the country, they can used to their studies, they can get used to speaking English, their courses, but especially during their second semester, now they should think more for the future. If they are already feeling comfortable, can they find a job after graduation? Or if they're not feeling comfortable yet, maybe they'll extend their study for 1 more year. And even for that, you should maybe contact your education consultant, just because applying early is helpful. So yeah, they should definitely think more for the future, because this PGWP, you can only apply for it once, as I mentioned before. So it is quite valuable for you to decide if it's 1 year or 3 years, because what happens if you graduate, you cannot find a job, and now you have 8 months left in your work permit and you just found a job. But the Canadian Experience class requirement is for you to work for 1 year. And when we say 1 year, we're talking about 30 hours per week. not 40 hours per week, because some students ask, oh, I work 2 jobs, it's 60 hours. Would that consider as 2 years? And we always say, no, it's not the amount of hours you work. It has to be minimum 30 hours, but it's also about the time, the length of the period.
Okay. So I think I have a few more questions. For them to be prepared to apply for PR in the future, they're already in Canada, start to study and work in Canada. Do you have any things, in addition to like studying, into possibilities? Like, should they file tax? What are the things they should do to be prepared for PR application in the future that they can do when they're studying?
Yeah. So initially, to create your profile in the pool, you do not need to show much proof, such as, for example, you might have work experience outside Canada before coming to Canada, but they are not asking for all the documents from the get-go. But once you're invited to apply, because they say, okay, your point seems enough, now prove it. Now you have to show all these documents. So it's always good to start preparing these documents early. Some documents might be valid for 2 years, some might be valid for 1 year. So maybe not every document, but do some research and maybe get your, if you completed your university degree in another country outside Canada, maybe you can get your WES equivalency, while you're studying even. Why wait until you after graduate? Because that equivalency you have to declare that during your application. Maybe you can already take the CELPIP General or maybe IELTS General English test, and that way maybe you can take it multiple times or until you receive the score that you want to present to IRCC, because each score band, like for example, IELTS is out of 9. If one of them is 6.5, but the other ones are like 7.5, that 6.5 is losing you points. So try to have everything in the maximum category. Same goes for French. If you speak some type of French, then maybe you can take the TEF exam. And if you have the Canadian work experience, then you have to store your contract, your pay stubs, maybe your letter of employment, your job title, and most importantly, you have to check your job title from the Canadian government website to make sure that your job title is within the tier 0, 1, 2, 3 for your PR application, for you to be eligible. And most importantly, those job titles have job descriptions written underneath, and those job descriptions, I'd say maybe at least 50% of them should be matching with the Canadian government standards. So yeah, I'd say these points are quite important for students.
Yeah, okay. So it's not going to be any jobs that they can work to get the 1 year experience if they are going to apply for the express entry. It needs to be the jobs listed on the tier systems in the tier level that they can use to apply for express entry, and we need to also look into job title and job description that match the government website, right?
Yeah, definitely. So the job titles should fall into the right categories, and the job descriptions should match with the government's job descriptions within each job title. Yes.
Okay. So I think I have one final question. It's quite a common question. Which program of study should I study if I want to get PR? Can I study hospitality? Can I study baking and pastry? Can I study culinary? Can I study aviation? Like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So PR application or with job being qualified is not really related to what you study in the college. You can study whichever program that you find most interest in, but it's more about the job itself being qualified. And when we say qualified jobs, we mean jobs that require a college or university degree. So if a college gives that program to you and afterwards you feel like you can find a job, if that job is in demand, or if you have enough skills that you are confident that you would find the job afterwards, then you can just study that program. It is more important for you to get the Canadian education points, and which means that the school that you go to has to be eligible for you to get the points. So it is important in that case which school you go to. Yeah.
Okay. we have covered a very good chunk of information for people who want to apply for peer. I'm sure it's helpful as the initial step about what they should know, how they should prepare, and then if they need or if they would like to have a person to help them who are regulated and have their license to do so, they can certainly like contact us and work with you, and we
Yeah.
can help them to the process, right?
Yeah, so yeah, as RCICs, we take our jobs very seriously, and we understand that our actions can have significant consequences on applicants. Therefore, we, prepare each visa application with great care and professionalism, and our recommendations and guidance are always transparent and genuine. So we're very passionate about helping as many students as possible to achieve their dreams.